Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios deep in the heart of stately Maine Manor, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, and I am your host, Joey Harris. You can follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. And folks, I finally saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You know, I had been spoiled by a plot point of the movie that I thought would come at the end, but thankfully came at the beginning, so I was able to enjoy the movie. I also went in the middle of the day, and there was only one other person in the theater, so I do an hourly step walking goal with my Fitbit. So I sat in the back of the theater and did my hourly step goal walking in the back without missing any of the movie. So that was a blessing in disguise there, and just thankful for that. And so today, Project 45 continues as we go back to 1984 and look at the World Class Championship Wrestling show from January the 21st, 1984. At this point in 1984, folks, I was miserable in kindergarten. I had a horrible teacher, and I was just miserable. Things would get a lot better after I graduated from kindergarten and went to the first grade. But that's where I was at this point. World Class Championship Wrestling was recorded from the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. We start out with our intro. Bill Mercer welcomes us to WCCW. He is the announcer for the evening. We then go to highlights of Iceman King Parsons getting burned by Skandor Akbar, Kimala with Skandor Akbar and Friday versus Rick Rudd. It is actually pre-ravishing Rick Rude in what must be an early match of his. The bell rings and they lock up. Kimala chops Rudd down. Kimala picks him up to chop him down again. He then picks Rudd up in a chokehold and slams him down again. Kimala chokes and chops Rudd down again. Rudd comes back with a forearm and a drop kick. Another drop kick, but Kimala won't go down. Rudd tries a shoulder block, but Kimala double chops him down. Kimala then splashes Rudd twice and pins him. He starts to go up top to splash, but gets stopped by Friday and Akbar. Flashback to Jimmy Garvin attacking Chris Adams. Bill Mercer interviews Chris Adams and Sunshine. Adams says Garvin always tries to attack him time and time again. Adams says he can play tricks too. He had to even pretend to be the Masked Avenger to prove that he could beat Garvin. He says things are coming to a head and he aims to get that American title. Sunshine says forget the title. He needs to be hurt and that Tramp and Garvin need to be sent out of there. Adams says he's tried to put me out. I'm definitely going to put him out. Jimmy Garvin with Precious versus Kevin Von Erich. The crowd goes crazy when Von Erich is announced. Because he wrestles barefoot, Von Erich has what I like to call grocery store feet. And folks, if you don't know what that is, Google it. A huge "We Want Sunshine" chant goes out. They lock up and Von Erich pushes Garvin off. Garvin complains that Von Erich pulled his hair. Garvin then backs to a corner and makes Von Erich get away. They lock up again and Garvin with a wrist lock. Von Erich twists out of it and hits a dropkick to the delight of the crowd. He then mocks Garvin's strut. Garvin bails out to the floor to regroup. He hugs Precious. The "We Want Sunshine" chant goes out again as Garvin gets back in the ring. Garvin backs into a corner again. They lock up. Back to a corner and Von Erich climbs a turnbuckle like he's going to hit Garvin. He breaks clean though. Garvin taunts the crowd. They lock up again and Garvin with a side headlock takeover. Von Erich twists into a head scissors lock on Garvin. Garvin screaming in the move. The Sunshine chant starts again. Garvin gets to the ropes so the hold is broken. Garvin backs to a corner again. Precious comes over and gives them a kiss. They lock up again. Von Erich with a side headlock. Into a snapmare. The crowd chants "We Want the Claw." Into an armbar. Von Erich attacking the arm as a Precious Sucks chant starts. Von Erich with a scoop slam and a big splash. He gets a 2 count. Garvin rolls to the outside and collapses to the floor. Precious helps Garvin back into the ring. Von Erich attacks him with a big right hands, and a snapmare into a headlock. Garvin fading as the "We Want Sunshine" chant goes out again. Garvin reverses into an armbar as Precious gets up on the apron. He drops the leg on the arm several times. He misses it one time when Von Erich moves. Von Erich runs Garvin headfirst into a turnbuckle. Von Erich with a corner whip and hits Garvin with a running knee into the corner. Von Erich hits Garvin with an elbow from the second rope. He gets a 2 count. Von Erich with another scoop slam into a chin lock. "We Want the Claw" chant goes out again. Garvin battling not to go out. The hand does not go down the third time. Garvin trying to get back to his feet. Von Erich trying to keep him down. Chris Adams and Sunshine come to ringside to a huge ovation. Garvin has Von Erich in the corner and hitting him with knees as Adams gets up on the apron. Referee Branko Lubitsch comes over to try to get Adams off the apron. Garvin throws Von Erich out, but he holds on and skins the cat to get back in as Garvin goes over to Adams. Adams pushes Garvin into Von Erich, who rolls Garvin up to get the pin. Precious gets into the ring and wants Adams and Sunshine to get in. They come in and the heels bail. Bill Mercer interviews Iceman King Parsons. Parsons says they had the Super D's going, and Akbar stuck his nose in where it didn't belong and threw fire. They then show the Super D's hitting Parsons with the superplex. Parsons says he has a big surprise for Akbar and the Super D's, as Andre the Giant comes out and says, "Big surprise." Andre says Parsons asked him to come and be his partner. Andre says he's going to stay in the corner and let Parsons do what he wants to do. And Andre is there to make sure everything goes well. Parsons says Andre just gave him the go-ahead. Anything he wants to do, Andre is big enough to back him up. Iceman King Parsons and Andre the Giant versus the Super Destroyers with Skandor Akbar. Referee David Manning tries to keep everyone apart as he tries to go over the instructions. Andre picks Manning up and moves him out of the way. The bell rings. The Super D's tell Manning to get Andre out of the ring. Andre and Parsons taunting the Super D's to the delight of the crowd. Parsons and Super D1 lock up. Parsons with a side headlock. An Andre chant goes out as Super D1 pushes off. Parsons comes back and Super D1 leapfrogs him. Parsons stops and scoop slams Super D1. Super D2 tagged in. They lock up and Parsons gets another side headlock. Super D2 pushes off. Super D2 drops down to avoid Parsons. Parsons comes back with a shoulder block. Parsons then goes back to the side headlock. Super D2 pushing against Parsons trying to break the hold. Super D2 pushes off. Parsons comes back, slips behind Super D2, and scoop slams him. Super D1 tagged, and Parsons gets a side headlock on him. Super D1 drives Parsons into a corner and hits him with a series of knee lifts. Super D1 with a corner whip, but Parsons gets his boot up on the charge. Parsons with a headbutt to Super D1. Andre tagged in to the delight of the crowd. The Super D's back up and go out to the floor with Akbar. Super D2 sneaks back in and goes and jumps on Andre's back and tries for a sleeper, but Andre just backs him into a corner. Andre then throws the other Super D into the corner and runs his shoulder into both. Andre corner whips Super D1 to Parsons, who chops him. Andre with a forearm to Super D2 to knock him down. The Super D's go back outside. Super D's hesitating, getting in, and while they argue, Andre comes over and runs their heads together. He throws Super D2 into the ring. He then steps on his hand and Super D2 can't get up. Andre then runs his knee into Super D2's back. He picks Super D2 up and Super D2 takes the opportunity to grab Andre in a side headlock. Andre pushes off, drops down, and butt bumps Super D2 when he comes back. He then does a little dance move to the delight of the crowd. Andre chops Super D2. Andre with an Irish whip drops his head early and Super D2 kicks him in the face. Super D1 tagged in. The Super D's double team Andre for a bit. Super D2 tagged back in and continues to pound Andre. Andre comes back with a forearm to knock Super D2 down. He then headbutts Super D2 and Parsons tagged back in. Parsons with an Irish whip and a backdrop. Parsons runs Super D2 into Andre's boot. Parsons gets a 2 count. Super D2 comes back with some shots to Parsons' midsection and a throat thrust. Super D1 tagged in. He guillotines Parsons on the top rope. He then steps down on Parsons' throat for a 3 count. Super D1 with an Irish whip and a double chop to Parsons. Super D1 then drops a knee across the throat of Parsons. Super D2 tagged in and Super D1 holds Parsons for Super D2 to hit a fist drop from the second rope. Super D2 with an Irish whip and a back elbow. Super D2 grabs Parsons and then goes over and kicks Andre, which brings him in. Manning's trying to get Andre out, allowing the Super Ds to double team Parsons. Super D2 with a knee drop for a 2 count. Super D2 with a headlock. Super D2 runs Parsons into Super D1's boot, and Super D1 tagged in. Irish whip and a knee to Parsons. Then a series of forearms to Parsons, who was trying desperately to tag Andre in. Super D1 with a corner whip and a running knee to Parsons. Another corner whip, but misses the splash when Parsons moves. Andre tagged in. Andre comes in with chops to Super D1, then a big headbutt, a big forearm to Super D1 and chops to Super D2 when he tries to come in. He runs the Super Destroyers into each other. Parsons gets on the top rope and Andre tosses him into both Super Destroyers. Kimala comes in to attack Andre for the disqualification. Andre headbutts Kimala out of the ring. Andre throws Super D1 out of the ring and grabs Akbar, but he escapes. Andre has Akbar's headdress and he uses it to shine Parsons' boot. Parsons then cleans Andre's boot. They show a replay. Bill Mercer recaps what has happened and some of the things coming up for World Class Championship Wrestling before signing off from Dallas. We then get the end credits. Final thoughts. This was a nice way to spend an hour. It was fun seeing early Rick Rude and Andre outside of the WWF. Recommended. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from stately Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.